It's an industry that I generally love. I have a passion for. I eat, sleep, I live for fitness.
No, you need to be obsessed. You need to wake up, think about it. You need to go to bed, think about your clients, think about your progress, think about what you can do better.
Genuinely, just be patient and take your time. That is you've got to take it all in the right steps. You've got to nail what you do in person before you go online.
I don't like to talk about fear. The fears is usually something that makes your worries real.
Welcome to the CoachingIgnited podcast. My name is Alex Povey. If you're a new listener, the show is released every Sunday on all the major platforms, including Spotify and iTunes. So be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a show. Every week we invite a new guest from the fitness industry or coaching space to share their personal journey in business. We will deep dive into actionable ideas, strategies and systems that you can apply in your life and business too. You can also access free weekly content in our private Facebook group by searching CoachingIgnited. And if you're a face-to-face personal trainer with room to take on additional clients, head over to CoachingIgnited.com, where you can apply for our 30-day Client Accelerator program and find out more about our business, sales and marketing training platform. Now let's get into this week's episode. Enjoy the show. On this week's episode of the podcast, I'm really excited to announce that we've got Jayne Lo, four-time UKBFF champion, and among appearing on Forbes, Muscle and Strength, the Huffington Post, and having sponsorships by several global brands, Jayne also runs a face-to-face personal training business in London alongside her weightlifting workshops and online coaching. And on this show, we look at what competing can do for your business, both the negative and positive sides, how Jayne has scaled her Instagram account to 37,000 real and engaged followers, and how to balance offline and online coaching. We also look at why having a personal brand is so important in 2019 and beyond, launching workshops and training groups, and why it's important to stick to what you know and double down on your strengths. So this is a wicked podcast. Cannot wait for you to get into it. So sit back, relax, and I'll see you in the show. Okay, so we're live, Jayne. Great to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So you're originally from Hong Kong, right? You've been in the UK for around 7 years running your fitness business. You've won 4 UKBFF champion trophies, which is awesome, by the way. And you've appeared in Forbes, Muscle and Strength, Huffington Post, and been sponsored by several brands. But where did this all begin for you? How did you get into the fitness industry?
So I've always been really active growing up. I was a competitive swimmer and a distance runner when I was in my teens. And then I actually moved to the UK 10 years ago, so it's been more than 7, to do my degree in geography. And that's when I switched over from running to boxing because it was just too cold to be outside and hilly Bristol in the wind and snow. So started the boxing, and that's when I realized I had no upper body strength. So I started going to the gym the following year when I was in London doing my master's, and then I was just hooked. And although my degrees are in something completely different, it was just my passion that kind of drove me down this path, because I was going to Regent's Park with the girls on my course, and I was just taking them through a workout. I was hosting boot camps literally for fun, and then they were like, Jayne, you should look into doing a course and becoming a trainer and doing this, as a career. And then so I did look into it, and you know how easy it is to qualify for a PT, right? For a thing. So literally took me 6 weeks, and then I got my level 2 and 3, and then a week after that I started working at Gymbox, which is the first place I worked at, and that was about just over 6 years ago now.
Awesome. So what were those?
So
that's kind of the shortened down version. What were kind of the early days for you, just starting out at Gymbox? What was it like when you first qualified as a trainer?
To be honest, working, because Gymbox is a commercial gym, so for anyone that hasn't been or doesn't know London, London predominantly has mainly like chain commercial gyms. So there's Fitness First, Virgin Active, and then Gymbox and Third Space are the higher end ones. So I picked Gymbox purely because of its location. It's in the city, it's where the money is, and there are going to be people that can afford personal training. It's a good space. I went for an interview at Fitness First as well, just down the road, but it's a lot smaller and the vibe wasn't as cool. So anyway, so I went to Gymbox, and it's a rent basis, so I pay rent to work there. So when I started off, what I didn't realize was that it was basically a sales job. It wasn't really about how good you are as a trainer. And that's something that I'm really not confident at and had no experience doing. My parents are not in sales at all, so I didn't really have someone that I felt like I could really speak to about it. So because when you first start, you get to go on shifts and you pay less rent. So I was doing 20 hours of shifts a week, just putting things away, and I was speaking to loads of people. Have had quite a few encounters where I've spoken to like other PT clients, so it's been quite hard, like starting, a lot of like the bigger male PTs that have been in the industry for years, and it's like quite intimidating, and I just felt like I was a little Chinese girl that had to put up with like all that drama at work. But no, it was I guess my kind of what I did was I would go around and look out for bag technique and kind of offer like little tips to just correct someone's squat technique and the way someone's moving on a deadlift, whatever, and then and use that as my opener to then offer like a taster session. So, and I try to convert that into packages, like paid clients basically. And yeah, so that's the start, the early days at Gymbox. And then when I kind of a few months into that, maybe like a couple of months in, I kind of realized I needed to specialize in something. And that's why I looked into competing in the UKBFF. And yeah, so I just picked a date, found a coach, and I started prepping for my first show. And yeah, that's how. So the two kind of started together, I guess, and I only started competing because I was working as a trainer. Otherwise, I don't think I would have ever done it.
Got you. So with the competing side of things, like, did you make that decision from like a business standpoint that you knew if you did that, then it would have a positive impact on the business? And then can you talk about kind of like the thought process behind it and then what it actually did for your business as well?
So it was exactly that. I felt like with my background in individual sports that's quite outdoorsy, it wasn't really a niche, especially in London. And I felt like I needed to specialize in something. So I figured everyone just wants to drop body fat. And because obviously with a level 2 and 3 PT course, you don't really know anything about nutrition, right? You know the basics, but that's not really going to be enough to transform someone aesthetically. So then I figured by prepping for a show, I would learn how to put on muscle, drop body fat, learn about macros, learn about, bodybuilding style training as well, because I feel like that's quite specific to different types of weight training. And what I didn't know at the time was that actually that was the foundation of what being a good PT is. Just that's like the most basic part of what every PT should know, really. Because that's kind of like prerequisite to then, all the other types like powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting, etc. So yeah, so I'm really glad I did that. And as I was prepping, I was using Instagram not really to necessarily market myself, but more because at the time I knew nothing about marketing myself, just marketing in general, or even using that tool as a platform to do that. I was using Instagram to kind of just track my progress, and it's kind of like a virtual diary for me. And then that's when I started gaining followers, and I realized people actually really enjoyed following my prep journey, just seeing what I was eating, what I was doing in the gym, and And then I started noticing people were inquiring about like coaching, and that's when I realized that, okay, the whole reason behind why I wanted to compete in the first place is actually working. So yeah, so I guess it kind of just went well and the way I wanted it to go.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It sounds like organically it just turned into what you wanted it to turn into by going through the process.
Yeah, exactly.
and doing what you set out to do. And I'd love to dive into more of that in a second, but in terms of like prepping for these competitions, what was it like? What were some of like the highs and lows of getting ready, and were there points where you're like, oh, can I be bothered doing this? Can I make it happen? And did you have doubts and things along the way? I'm sure that'd be really, really, really interesting for people to know.
So I think for my very first show, I had absolutely no expectation whatsoever. And I mean, I was like busy literally grinding it in the gym. I was spending like 14, 15 hours in the gym. So I was barely on Instagram. I didn't really like stalk other competitors, which I know a lot of people do nowadays. So I very much just kept to myself, focused on what I had to do for myself and focus on growing my business. And before I knew it, I was stepping on stage. So at the time I had like no expectations. I didn't know how I was looking in comparison to the others. I didn't realize this at the time, but I was very, very small. I didn't have a lot of muscle, and I was very lean as well. And I didn't really know what that was, how I looked, I guess, compared to like what the expectation was. So yeah, so I just kind of went to the comp just doing what I planned to do. And yeah, I guess that first show was, and because of not having any expectations, that first show was quite easy. I didn't really have like crashes. I didn't really have binges. I actually had a relatively, I wouldn't say strict, but I followed a meal plan. It wasn't flexible dieting or anything. But surprisingly, I still didn't really struggle. But I think it's because it was the first time I was doing it. I didn't have any expectations, and my body was kind of just responding really well to that initial change in, adaptation to whatever it was doing. So I really enjoyed the journey. It was only about a 12-week prep. And yeah, I couldn't really have gone better. And then the year after, though, I feel like that's like a whole other conversation. I don't know if you have more questions about the first show and my first year.
Got you. So like the first one was, it was excitement. It was unknown. There was no expectation. You were just going into it and having fun with it. Then once you do something for the first time, there's kind of like a level then that you've got a benchmark against, and then you can start to be a bit more self-critical in the situation.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, I'm quite a competitive person, but I've only ever competed in individual sports. So I guess when I don't know where I stand amongst my competitors, I don't really know where to position myself. So I wouldn't be competitive if I didn't feel like I had a chance of doing well. So that first show, the Kent Classics, that was in August, I came first in my category. And that was like the game changer. That was the moment when I was like, okay, I can do this. And when I compared myself to the other girls, I was the most conditioned, also had the most muscle, but I just looked like I was very new to the game. I just needed more muscle maturity, basically. And my posing was shocking. Like I was just so awkward. Anyway, so obviously all of these things I only knew like a year later when I was reflecting back on my first show. And at the time I didn't know that. But I guess because it went well, again, that just boosted my confidence, both in bodybuilding and also on the gym floor. I was getting, again, like a lot more business inquiries, a lot more followers on Instagram, who were interested in what I was doing. And then I kind of just got hooked. I didn't end up doing the British finals that year because I had booked a post-show trip to the Maldives, so I went on holiday instead. But then my coach and I decided that actually it's probably better that way because I just needed to grow. I just need to train for longer. So the next show I did was in May the following year. I did a show, I think that was Southeast London. So yeah, in Kent as well, but a different show. So I did a show there, and then a week after that, I did a show at Body Power. And funnily enough, I came first in both of those as well. So it was I was kind of like on a bit of a high. But my prep for that was slightly different. So my coach at the time is Body Novo. So he's like ISSN qualified. He was still doing a master's in bodybuilders, and he had a lot of interest in just the way people's bodies respond to different adaptations. And so he prepped me differently. I guess this is kind of like part of, because he's a scientist and he's a researcher, he was really interested in how different methods could work on me. And because my body responds really well to literally like anything, and the smallest changes, I was quite a good case to kind of test on. So I've done everything from like a meal plan to strict macros to cheat meals to then flexible dieting and refeeds. What was exciting about that prepping that year was that I got to try out different types of prep. Even in terms of training, like I remember every Wednesday on my plan for about 4 to 6 weeks, I was only doing like 3 to 5 reps on like 5 different compounds. And like even my training was very different each prep. And it was just really interesting to see how my body responded every time. And for me, I think that was the most rewarding thing about comp prepping, just getting to know your body and seeing how your body responds to so many different things, and how there's no one correct method, as it were, for each person. So that was the second year, and I did 3 more shows in October that year as well.
Amazing. So in terms of like all this kind of prep, competition and coaching, how do you feel like that's had an impact on the kind of service that you give your clients and the results that you're able to get now?
So let's go back to at the time. So at the time, I feel like, again, this is not something I knew at the time, but because bodybuilding style training was all I did, that was also all I knew. And all my PT clients are like, you know, CEOs, senior managers that are like in their 40 to 60. So even if you do the most basic bodybuilding programming with them, yes, their bodies will adapt, and they'll, you know, obviously if you're making them move and trying to help them with their diet, their bodies will respond. But what I didn't realize at the time was that they couldn't actually move very well. Most of them had mobility issues, and what I should have done at the time was actually fix all those things. And that's something that I didn't realize until like 2 years ago. But again, I think that's partly due to the fact that I just did know a lot. And also I was so focused on prepping that I didn't really get to take a step back and look at my clients as a body as a whole. And I was more focusing on just delivering a session and making sure they were executing the session properly, if that makes sense. So I think as a coach, I've just changed a lot over time, just from the clients that I had. Again, like that has not a lot to do with my competing, not a lot to do with competing as well. I think that's more just from having to help clients overcome injuries or like rehabbing from surgery. And when you deal with a client that has something completely different to anything you really see on Instagram, because this is not the typical client you see on Instagram. You know, John, who's 58, you know, tall, overweight, works in the city. You're not going to see that person as a case on Instagram because it's not really that interesting to the everyday individual, right? It's interesting to us because we're obviously like coaches that actually want to help everyday people. But this is the stuff you don't see on Instagram. So for me, it was then like, okay, shit, I need to go out there, do some research and find out how I can help this guy. And then before you know it, so he then referred someone else, they then referred someone else. And then now I have like a book of clients that all need help with like their hips and their lower back and their shoulder blades and, you know, pull like a muscle bending over in the shower to pick something up. That's the clientele I have now. And it's really interesting how that changed because I guess it wasn't really what I set out to do initially when I did my course. Sorry. Yeah, so I guess it is, yeah, I think it was only when I took the year after that year where I did 5 shows, I kind of took a semi break from competing. I only did 1 show end of that year. And that kind of gave me time to actually refocus on my business and look at what I was doing as a coach and how I was helping my clients. So yeah, I think I really needed that. Not just to take a break from competing, but also to kind of reset myself as a trainer and a coach. Yeah.
Got you. Makes sense. So like you mentioned earlier about when you started competing, that your Instagram then started to kind of provide like leads and people were showing interest. So would you say when you first started competing, that was kind of the catalyst for growth on your Instagram? Because you're around, about 37,000 kind of followers right now.
Yeah.
Were you at a good level before you started competing, or was that the catalyst for the growth? Is that how it started to grow?
Yeah, it was definitely the competing that did start the growth, because I was probably on about like 800 followers when I started my Instagram. That's all my Facebook friends from like high school and primary school. So I don't even think they follow me anymore. But anyway, so yeah, so I guess it was just prepping, documenting my prep. People love like transformation photos. I put loads of that up, of me, not of my clients. And yeah, that's when like training for aesthetic really kicked off as well. And also that was when Instagram started growing quite quickly. So I think I just got in there at a good time. But yeah, I can definitely say that it was definitely the competing that helped with growth.
When you started posting on Instagram, did you have like the idea that you wanted to build it into a big account that was going to generate leads and business? Or did you just go into it simply like, okay, I'm just going to document the process. I'm just going to put it out there and see what happens. I'd be interested to know if there was some strategy behind it, or whether that just developed when you saw the potential. Then you got more strategic with what you were doing in order to kind of fast track the growth and make sure that it was providing you business at the end of the day, because that's what you're trying to run, right? You're trying to run a business.
Yeah. So I was definitely just kind of winging at the start. It was just to document my journey. I didn't really start using Instagram strategically until about maybe 3 years ago. So that would have been 2.5 years into starting in the business. And that's when I started just making sure my posts were educational or motivational. I was using the right hashtags, location tags, etc. So I guess because I never really needed Instagram for my personal training business, I never prioritized any time or resources on growing that platform at the initial stage. because I was getting a lot of requests anyway on the gym floor and from word of mouth that I didn't actually need to. But then what changed was when I started getting a lot of DMs about online coaching. So this is not a service that I offered at the time, but because a lot of people were asking me about it, I figured, okay, maybe I can look into this. At the time, I was like, surely it's not that different to like programming for a PT client, right? It's basically the same thing, but they're just virtual. But yeah, little did I know that there's so much more to it. Anyway, that's a different story. But it was that interest in actually working with me from following my journey that kind of sparked my desire to want to then start pushing my Instagram more in that direction. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because Instagram is obviously a great platform, or at least it was, right? You've probably seen like organic engagement decline like massively in the last 12 months alone, because they're bringing in all kinds of things, paid advertising. I think soon you'll be able to buy products on there. I think that's the next thing.
I know.
Yeah, so
I'm going to be using that.
But in terms of like what you're doing right now, which maybe people can do as well, what are some of the kind of the key things, maybe 3 key things to building kind of a fitness profile in 2019 to make sure that, one, you're providing value and getting engagement, but also attracting the right people to your business? Is there some sort of key strategies that you're using right now?
Yeah. So I would say my main suggestions are to stay true to yourself. There's so many coaches, like millions, right? But people don't necessarily just buy into whoever is the most knowledgeable. People buy into personalities and who they get on with most, who they connect with most, who they like most. And if you're not true to yourself on social media, they're going to know as soon as they start speaking to you, right? So what a lot of clients come to me for is the way I live my life, just my lifestyle, my approach to training and dieting. The fact that I'm very flexible in my approach. I'm a city girl. I eat out. I drink alcohol. I don't train like more than 4 times a week. And that's what people aspire to be like. And that's why they come to me. And that is what I put out. So if you constantly, and I mean like repeatedly, tell people this is what you believe in, this is what you do, and this is what works for you and my method, and this is how my clients are responding from the same thing or something similar, then you're going to attract people that want the same. And if you want to be growing your business on the online coaching front, then that's what I would really suggest doing. And then other little things is like posting at the right time. So knowing like when your audience are most responsive. So posting at those times, hashtagging the right things. Although I think recently I've been told that hashtags are actually really messing with engagement. So don't know about that. Location tags really help as well. So I always target gyms in the area that I'm working at or at the gym that I'm at.
Yeah.
And people tend to always find me through just from hashtagging gym blocks or third space or location tagging these 2 gyms. So, yeah, this is actually one of the first questions I ask people when I get a consultation for online coaching or PT is, where did you find me? Because I'm always interested to know where I should be spending my time and resources when it comes to marketing myself.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's a really smart thing. We're doing that with our business as well, because there's so many platforms that you could be on and you could invest time and energy into, but it might not necessarily provide a return on investment because your audience might not be there. But you said something really profound about like the way you live your life and just being you, like being authentic and being true. And that will resonate with certain people, but with others, it will repel them. And that's good, right? You need to be able to attract and repel. Yeah. And you want to really repel as well, because that means you'll really attract people. Yeah. But I think a lot of people are scared about being too one way or the other and just end up being vanilla and then attract
Yeah.
nobody and repel nobody, and so don't get any
Yeah.
interest in their businesses.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
I think as well, like this year and going forward, it's more important than ever to like be yourself and have a personality, because as you probably know, in this fitness space, there's thousands of coaches screaming and competing for business, particularly on the online space right now. It's exploding, right? You've probably seen that just go crazy over the last couple of years. But in terms of like your online stuff as well, because that's something that you're moving into, right? Or you're doing now as well?
I'm already doing. So I started doing that 3 years ago when I saw a huge reaction to just my prep journey, transformations. I started posting some of my PT client transformations on there as well, and that really attracts people. And I started offering that as a service because I was getting inquiries about it. And I always perform better when there's a need for something. So, because at the end of the day, there are not many online coaches that also PT full time, and PT is still my bread and butter. So to actually build an online business around that is quite difficult. So for me, it was more trying to manage my time between the two, that I need to get the balance right. But yeah, so I still currently do the online coaching, but PT is still my main thing.
So how does that look? Because this is going to probably be interesting for a lot of people, because there'll be a lot of like face-to-face in-person PTs right now who are getting kind of like hit with these offers to take their business online, scale to 6 figures, travel the world with freedom. You've probably seen all these adverts. So a lot of people are being tempted into this idea of building online businesses, but kind of there's going to be like a transitional period from going from one to the other. Right now you're doing both at the same time. So can you talk about how you, one, found time to do this, but two, how you're balancing the both? Because you're not leaving your bread and butter, you're doing both. So it's probably interesting for people that want to be in both camps versus one or the other, because you're actually living that and doing it. So how do you manage both, and how did you make that kind of step to bring in the online stuff as well?
So when I first started, I was working 7 days a week and very long hours. It was actually really bad for prep because I was crashing and burning. I wasn't recovering. I had panic attacks on the treadmill doing my cardio. It was bad times. So that was actually when I realized that, because I'm competitive and I'm a very all or nothing person, I can't put in 100% into my prep and still be running a successful business at the same time. Not to say I wasn't successful at the time, but it was more I wasn't giving 100%, and I knew that, and that really annoyed me. My clients knew it as well, and that's why they hate it when I compete, because I'm not myself. I'm not, the fully bubbly, energized Jayne that they see like now. So I felt like I was only giving like 80%, and but I do understand and appreciate that a lot of people would want to compete or feel like they need to compete to kind of help with their profile, which is totally normal because that's why I did it as well. But then it comes to just saying no when you know you need to stop, and also managing your time quite well. So I tried to fit in all my clients earlier in the day. So I'd be out of the gym by like 3 p.m. and I'll go home and deal with anything online that I need to do. Or I would even like push all the online stuff over to the weekend when I'm fresh and I can wake up and just focus on that. So I think it really depends on the person as well. Some people function better in the morning. Some people function better in the evenings. There's a bodybuilder, competitive bodybuilder PT that I work with, and he's the complete opposite to me. So he would start work at midday, but stay until 9 p.m., but he was doing the exact same thing. So he didn't have online clients, but he was also prepping. And it's just interesting to see how, everyone, I guess there's no one right way of doing it, but it's more knowing what your body responds best to and needs, and when you perform best when it comes to your training, and mentally having these conversations with your clients it's quite draining as well. So when you work best as a coach, when you perform best in the gym, and then when you have time for everything else. So I think it's just figuring that out and then making that work for you in your favor. Yeah.
So it sounds like your business is built around you and the way that you want to train and kind of maintain your lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the kind of key focus behind it.
Yeah, exactly. So since it's been about a year now, but I only work one evening, maybe two max a week now. And when I say work, I mean on the gym floor. So I much prefer doing back-to-back 6 sessions of clients in the morning, and then have the rest of the day to myself, even if it means like not having time to eat or something, which is not great if you're competing. But now that I'm not prepping, I much prefer it. And I'm noticing you get so much more free time when you do that, because the little like 15-minute, 30-minute gaps between clients can be quite wasted if you're not very good with your time, like have really good time management. So I like to just get the PT in, have my break, and then focus on everything else that I need to do. And that's what I've been doing ever since I've started picking up more online clients, and I find that really helps. So now I tend to do all my check-ins when I'm getting my steps in. I find it quite a good way to A, get my steps in, and B, I'm solidly focusing on just doing my check-ins, because I give myself X amount of time to walk, and when I'm doing that, I have to get in, whatever I've got down, whoever I need to see that day. So, so it's just trying to find little things in your lifestyle that would kind of benefit your business as well, I guess.
Yeah, got
if that makes sense.
So with the split right now, so you've got the offline, you've got the online. What's the kind of like percentage split in terms of like business, maybe revenue? So how in terms of the splits between the two right now?
Probably 70% PT and 30% online.
Got you. And then is your plan to like increase the online, or is this like the equilibrium for you? Is this like the perfect balance between offline and online? So I'm trying to scale down on my PT at the minute. I started doing some female lifting workshops last year, so like running them, and I've really enjoyed training group training, but not like group exercise instructing, which I think is very different. It's coaching a group of people with my control, like with that skill base, rather than like smashing them for 20, 30, 45 minutes or whatever. And I would love to do more of that. So I've just signed a contract with a startup in Oval. So I'm going to be training their team, like they're basically in their office building, like once a week starting next month, which is quite cool. Yeah.
So, and that's the kind of thing that I want to get into more, just helping more people at the same time, rather than just doing the one-to-one PT. So I want to be doing more of that, growing my online coaching and doing less one-to-ones. Yeah, I guess that's where I'm trying to move to. Yeah,
and then doing obviously like these group things where that's scalable as well, because you can impact more people versus kind of like the one-on-one training. With the online stuff then, so like if you have to break it down into like time invested versus your offline. So offline, you're probably doing like hour sessions, right? And you're exchanging X for X amount of time. How does that translate online? Do you make the same money in the same amount of time? Or right now, is it more scalable in terms of what you can get with your time invested?
So I actually offer 2 different online coaching packages. There's like the standard online coaching, which is you get a full week program, you get your macros, or well, if you're like intuitive eating, then whatever, like nutritional health, whatever. And then you get your check-ins with me. But then I also offer a hybrid, which is what I don't think a lot of online coaches currently offer, and that's one where I actually see my client in person once a month for a complimentary technique session. And that to me is the game changer, because if you actually see how someone moves and then write them a plan and then correct them technically, they actually respond a lot faster and they feel a lot more confident when they're going into the gym to do an exercise. If you set them, so especially since I set someone a new plan every 4 weeks, if you set them an exercise like a rack pull, for example, that they've never done before, just from looking at a training video online is not going to make them go, okay, yeah, this is how I do it. And even if they did, if they do it like for 3-4 weeks, they might not necessarily benefit from doing the exercise, I guess. I'm just using rack pull as an example because one of my online clients mentioned it the other day, and she's actually in Madrid, so I don't actually see her, but we exchange a lot of training videos. But yeah, so I guess what I really enjoy about the online coaching, especially having majority of my online clients are actually London based, but I think that's down to how I target my audience on Instagram, is that I get to see them one-to-one, and when they have that option of getting the hybrid, they do. And yeah, they definitely see like a lot of difference. Well, I see a lot of difference in the way people perform and adapt and respond to the program. So yeah.
Okay, so with that, you've still got that offline element, like one session a month within the pack, and then you've got like this purely online based stuff as well. So like what I'm kind of interested in is the time it takes to manage this online versus kind of
deviated from that.
Just doing a session here. Is this like a better return on investment to manage like an online client versus showing up and doing one-on-one sessions with a client and investing like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours? How does that look like for you in your business right now?
I think I would say in terms of pound to the time, money to the time I'm spending on the individual, I would say is exactly the same. But the ones that do the hybrid with me tend to stay for longer because they see better results. Whereas the ones that don't, even though I technically kind of make more money, they don't stay on for as long.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I guess what I've kind of learned, what I've learned from doing the offline is that personal element of coaching, actually seeing the person, knowing them inside and out, is really beneficial to a long-term client relationship. And that's why my PT clients, the ones that I still have now, they've been with me for like years. So, and I think it's building that rapport and that relationship from the beginning. That's really important. And when someone's purely online, if you don't see them, you don't speak to them much, it's almost like a long distance relationship, right? You just feel disconnected and you don't feel like you're really there to help them. So, but again, like there are different coaches that kind of want to gain different things out of online coaching. And I'm someone I've always been quite personal with my approach, and I'm just a personal person. So that's just, what I want and like.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from that is the client retention is much better when you've either got them offline or you've got the hybrid model versus just the online model itself, because they're not really getting that contact as much with you, and you're not being able to build those kind of relationships, right, with these offline people. So what I'd be interested to know about your sponsorships, because I read that you had one with Reflex Nutrition. Is that right? I used to take their protein. It's actually really good. And also you've got a couple of other ones right now as well. So I'd be interested to know like how they came about and like how they work within your business, what it does for you and how it affects your brand and your business.
Okay. So Reflex, I joined their team the second year I was competing. So when I was like smashing the shows and I guess they were looking for a new athlete, and my friend who was already on the team put me forward. And that was like, that's when I joined them. But to be honest, I didn't really feel like they were really doing much in the industry. I mean, I was at expos and stuff, but then like aside from sampling a product, you're not really like doing much, which is fine. Like I didn't even get free products. I only got a 70% off discount for my products. I know.
Damn it.
And there are like people are freaking getting paid from other brands just posing in their underwear with a tub of protein. I was paying for my own products and then like trying to get people to use my discount code. Anyway, so then I kind of didn't realize at the time, but now I do, that I was actually gaining nothing from this, because it's not like I'm getting more business from it, or it's not really doing much to my profile. So, but then again, at the same time, they weren't really asking anything of me. So it was just kind of like a dead relationship that was just there. Anyway, so then after that, I did have a couple of like bikini sponsors, like fish sponsors, like really random, like this seafood delivery, like seafood supplier that sent me some fish and stuff. And then the big ones that then came about were Nocco, which was 2 years ago. That was after I competed at the Amateur Olympia in Asia. Did really well in that show. Was really happy. I prepped the whole of that year. So this is, not last year, year before. Again, that was a big year where I did 5 shows. And the brand manager, he was following me that entire year, and he reached out to me after that show and asked if I wanted to join the team. I said yes, and so that's when I joined Nocco. Hey, sorry, I'm in the staff room, so should probably go with this. Anyway, so that was when I joined Nocco, and with Nocco, again, it wasn't paid, but I'm just such a passionate person that when they asked if I wanted to take a step up and like teach classes and be like the coach at the Nocco training day, I said yes to all of this. So this was beginning of last year. So we did a lot of outdoor workouts in parks, open to anyone that wanted to come. I did 3 of them, and that was really fun. But then again, like at the end of that, I kind of realized, actually, I'm doing all of this stuff for free. And when I already run my own female lifting workshops on the side that I'm monetizing. So, but the brand didn't want to pay. And it was also really annoying me because I know there are athletes on the team that get paid every month. So then I decided that, okay, I'm not going to do this for free anymore. So now, again, it's like a freaking dead relationship that's just kind of there. I don't even care if they hear this because they already know how I feel about it. But yeah, anyway, so that's been like happening, which is, I'm still with them now. But again, I'm still with them now. And then recently I started working with Kin as well. Kin's an interesting one because so they do plant-based proteins, and I'm not vegan, but I actually really like their products because their ingredient list is short, which to me is a big deal. They don't have a lot of crap in it. There's some other brands that I love and are very cheap, but they just put like a load of, flavorings and stuff in it, which is obviously not great for you in the long run, but So when Kin got in touch and asked about working with me, I said yes. So now I'm one of their few ambassadors, but that's again more discount code and getting people to get their products, etc. So that's where I am at on the sponsor front.
Do you think it's had like a positive impact on your business in any way? Even just the fact that you did the training days, and then maybe that sparked the idea of you creating your own training, or did you already have that before you did it?
I already had my own before I did it.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and it was completely different because that was like a HIIT workout outdoors, which is like whereas I was doing a technique workshop for women that wanted to learn how to lift properly, so it's quite different. But I would say in terms of my profile, I think being with Knuckle has helped to a certain extent. But then again, like anyone on Instagram that's scrolling through, clicking on profiles, as soon as someone sees a person associated with a brand, they're like, okay, this person must be important. It's
social
people don't
proof.
understand. Yeah, people don't understand the relationship behind people working for brands and how actually there's so many people out there that are getting actually nothing really in exchange for being, doing X amount of work for a company that's turning over tens and hundreds of thousands of pounds. So, and I think this is something that's really important that needs to be addressed because a lot of people don't realize this. And no one really talks about it either because obviously you shouldn't really be talking about it, right? But yeah, so I guess it has, I don't know how much value it would have added to my business, but considering I gain clients mainly from word of mouth and Instagram location tags, it's not like everyone's ever come through me, oh, I want to work with you because you're a Knuckle athlete, So, yeah, maybe it helped me gain followers, but not necessarily business. Let's put it that way.
No, yeah, I'd agree with that because it is kind of like a blue tick almost. Not to that degree, but it has that kind of social proof. Like you said, if someone's scrolling and they land on your profile and they see an association with a known brand that they know, then they're like, oh, hold on a minute. If they're with them and I like that brand, then maybe I like them too. And it is kind of like that social proof. You can't kind of see the direct ROI on it, but like you said, it probably has resulted in maybe some followers or engagement or a couple of leads, but you just can't put it down to that thing. So I just want to kind of wrap up now because we've been going through this and it's pretty much an hour already. But I want to kind of get your take, and I ask this to everyone that comes on the show, because you've probably got your own philosophies to coaching and what makes a good coach. So I want to ask you, Jayne, like what in your opinion makes a good coach in the fitness industry?
Someone who cares about the person as an individual, not necessarily just be driven by money, because that's not really going to give you the same kind of satisfaction of actually helping someone, and you're probably not going to be as good of a coach because of it. But actually caring about the person and wanting to help them from the root cause of whatever issues they're dealing with. And looking as the individual as a whole, not just their training and their nutrition, but just everything. So I think being personal and being authentic in yourself and sticking to your USP basically, and sticking to what you know, what you do best, and attracting people that are suited to that is probably what I would suggest.
Amazing. So where can people find more about you? If people wanted to check you out, if they wanted to find you on Instagram or any of your other products or your website, what are all the details for that?
So my Instagram is jayne.lo. So that's James, that with a Y, and Lo is like J Lo. So just think J Lo. My website is jaynelo.com. And I'm actually selling my own merchandise as well. So I've got resistance bands and barbell pads. So you can find that on my website. Hopefully it'll be up there at some point this week. And yeah, hope that's helpful.
Awesome. And your events as well. So have you got more events coming up, the live events?
Yes, the female lifting workshop. So I'm probably going to be doing one in June. I haven't decided on the date yet, but details will be on my website and on my Instagram. That's where I basically market everything. So if you follow me on there, that's what I did.
Awesome. And then anyone that would come to one of those events, like what can they expect to receive or go through with you at those events?
So at the female lifting workshop, I go through 8 main lifts. It's all technical, so you shouldn't expect a workout. It's more, I've got an assistant coach as well who's also my online client. and a PT. So the two of us go through the squat, bench, deadlift, strict press, chin-ups, lunges, hip thrusts, and bent over rows. And we first demo it, and then we get someone from the floor to demo it, and we correct them in front of everyone, and then they all go off onto squat rack and practice amongst themselves, and we come around and correct everyone. So you actually get a lot of So you get a lot of one-to-one contact with both of us, as well as working under a group setting and having other girls in the group look at you. So yeah, it's a really good way to meet people and also to have your technique checked out if you want to just feel more confident in the gym when you're doing whatever program you've got.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Absolutely love that. Anyone listening, go check that out. Sounds like a wicked event. So just want to say thank you so much for doing this. It's been awesome chatting to you, hearing about your story and all the things that you've been doing. I really appreciate you coming on.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me, Alex.
All right. Speak soon. Bye.
Soon. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did enjoy the show, I would be really grateful if you could leave a short review or post a comment on what you'd like to hear in future episodes. And if you're a face-to-face personal trainer with room to take on additional clients, head over to CoachingIgnited.com, where you can apply for our 30-day Client Accelerator program and find out more about our business, sales and marketing training platform. See you on the next episode.